It is one of the great paradoxes of our time. Humanity has never been more connected, and yet never more divided. We can send a message across the planet in the blink of an eye, stream images from the farthest reaches of our solar system, and map the very structure of our DNA. And yet, amid this dazzling power, millions still hunger, nations still wage war, and people still fail to recognize their shared humanity. The irony is almost cosmic in its proportions. It is as if we have mastered the art of communicating across light years, but have yet to master the art of listening across the dinner table. Now imagine this. What if we are not just being observed by each other, but by distant civilizations? Civilizations perhaps older than our sun, born in galaxies where the night sky is not black, but crowded with stars so numerous, the darkness between them barely exists. They might be watching us not with curiosity alone, but with the studied patience of astronomers peering into the faint glimmer of a fragile world. To them, Earth could be an unfolding story, one that is both awe-inspiring and deeply troubling. Consider that every photon we broadcast into space, every television signal, every radio transmission, every radar ping has been racing outward from our planet for nearly a century. A bubble of information now spanning over 100 light years across, expanding like the ripples of a stone cast into a cosmic pond. Inside that bubble are the echoes of our world, the speeches of leaders, the laughter of children, the roaring engines of war, the harmonies of orchestras, the cheers at stadiums, and the static between stations. All of it a portrait of humanity painted in electromagnetic brushstrokes, visible to any civilization advanced enough to tune in. Now, here's the question. If they are watching, what story are we telling? This isn't a question of science fiction, it is a question of self-reflection. For in the very possibility of being observed by others, we confront our own reflection on a cosmic stage. Imagine if the very first signal that reached alien ears was a broadcast of us detonating nuclear weapons. Imagine if their first image of us was not of unity, but of division. What conclusions might they draw about us? Would they see us as a species poised for greatness, or a civilization destined to burn bright and vanish like so many sparks before us? We often ask, where are they? Echoing Enrico Fermi's famous paradox. If the universe is so old, so vast, so abundant with stars and planets, then why don't we see evidence of intelligent life? But perhaps the better question is, if they are out there, what do they see in us? Do they look upon our planet and see the pale blue dot that Carl Sagan described, a world small, fragile, yet brimming with potential? Or do they see something else, a civilization that has unlocked the secrets of the atom and the genome, but not yet the wisdom of coexistence? History gives us some perspective. Consider when European explorers first encountered civilizations across oceans. The meeting was rarely one of equals. More often than not, it was marked by misunderstanding, conquest, and tragedy. If we project this history onto the cosmos, we realize the enormous responsibility we carry. For if alien civilizations do exist, it is not they who must prepare for us, but we who must prepare for them. And preparation does not begin with rockets or telescopes. It begins with the choices we make about who we are, how we treat one another, and what kind of civilization we hope to become. In this sense, the question, are we alone, is less about them and more about us. Because even if the answer turns out to be yes, that we are, for now, the only known architects of thought and technology in this quadrant of the cosmos, then the responsibility on our shoulders is even greater. It means that in all the vastness of space, consciousness as we know it exists here on this singular world, orbiting this average star in the outskirts of a spiral galaxy. And what we do with that gift matters. So let us imagine again for just a moment that alien eyes are watching. What story will they see in the centuries to come? A civilization that turned its brilliance inward, fighting over borders invisible from space, consuming resources until there was nothing left? Or will they see a species that overcame its tribal instincts, lifted its gaze to the stars, and embraced the profound responsibility of intelligence? In the end, the greatest discovery may not be whether alien civilizations are watching us. The greatest discovery may be the realization that we have always been watching ourselves through the mirror of the cosmos. And in that reflection lies both our greatest warning and our greatest hope. The space race of the 20th century was never just about rockets. It was about proving what kind of civilization we were capable of becoming. Today, our challenge is greater, and so too must be our ambition. For whether or not aliens are watching, history is, the cosmos is, and perhaps most importantly, our descendants will be. What story will they inherit from us? That is the question worth answering. If alien civilizations are indeed watching, then perhaps they see something in us that we too often overlook in ourselves. A species standing at the crossroads of destiny. From their vantage point, Earth is not just a planet with oceans and continents. It is a theater of evolution, a stage upon which intelligence has emerged, where atoms that once danced inside the hearts of stars have arranged themselves into creatures capable of contemplating infinity. That alone should astonish us. For billions of years, the universe unfolded without witnesses. Galaxies collided, stars were born and died, black holes devoured entire suns, and all of it happened in silence, unseen, unrecorded, unremarked upon. Then, on a small, rocky world orbiting an unassuming star, the universe gained eyes. It gained ears, it gained a mind that could ask questions about its own existence. That mind is us. And yet, how strange it must look, from an alien perspective, to see this mind squander its gift. To see us spend so much time dividing ourselves into nations, religions, ideologies, and tribes, while the cosmic perspective shows us plainly that no such divisions exist in space. From orbit, there are no borders. From Mars, Earth is a single point of light. From the edge of the solar system, as Voyager taught us, our entire planet can be contained in a single pixel, a pale blue dot suspended in a sunbeam. Imagine an alien scientist studying us from afar, trying to reconcile this image of unity with the reality of our endless conflicts. It would be as baffling as watching a genius child solve equations beyond the reach of its teachers, only to trip and fall while learning to walk. But here is the deeper paradox. The very same qualities that make us dangerous also make us extraordinary. Our capacity for destruction is the flip side of our capacity for creation. The same physics that allows us to unleash nuclear fire also allows us to light our cities, power our hospitals, and launch spacecraft beyond the pull of Earth's gravity. The same curiosity that drives us to build weapons of unimaginable power also drives us to decode the genome, to peer into the fabric of space-time, to listen for whispers of alien civilizations in the radiostatic of the cosmos. We are both architects and arsonists, builders and destroyers. To an outside observer, it must appear that we are still deciding what kind of species we will ultimately become. History, too, reflects this duality. Consider the Renaissance, an age of breathtaking creativity, of art and science flourishing side by side. At the very same time, Europe was consumed by wars, inquisitions, and plagues. Human brilliance has always been shadowed by human folly. But perhaps, from the perspective of the cosmos, what matters most is not that we stumble, but that we get up again. That we continue, however imperfectly, to move toward greater awareness. This brings us back to the question, could alien civilizations already be watching us? And if so, what do they see in our struggle? Perhaps they see not just our failures, but our potential. For potential is the most powerful force in the universe. A star is potential before it ignites. A seed is potential before it sprouts. And humanity, flawed, fractured, yet dreaming, is potential before it matures into something greater. But potential, left unrealized, is indistinguishable from nothing. The cosmos does not reward intention, it rewards action. And this is where our story takes a turn. Because if alien eyes are on us, they are not waiting to see what we dream, they are waiting to see what we do. If alien civilizations are indeed out there quietly observing, then perhaps their patience is born of perspective. After all, a civilization that has survived for millennia beyond ours would know that youth is reckless. They might look upon us the way a parent looks at a child learning to walk, with equal parts pride and concern. A child stumbles often, but the act of stumbling does not define the child. The act of rising again does. To them, we may be in our adolescence as a species. We are old enough to wield great power, but not yet wise enough to wield it responsibly. Adolescence is marked by contradictions, strength without maturity, intelligence without restraint, passion without foresight. Look at our history. In the blink of an evolutionary eye, we went from cave paintings to supercomputers, from fire pits to nuclear arsenals, from counting the stars to sending probes to visit them. Yet in that same blink, we still struggle with poverty, inequality, prejudice, and the simple ability to see ourselves as one human family. From space, the difference between a nation's borders is invisible. But on Earth, they often determine whether a child eats, whether a family survives, whether a culture thrives or disappears. Now imagine alien astronomers cataloging us. Perhaps they've mapped the chemical fingerprints of our atmosphere: oxygen, methane, carbon dioxide, the unmistakable signs of a biosphere. Perhaps they've watched our night side sparkle with artificial light, glowing like constellations scattered across the continents. Perhaps they've detected our radio bubble, that century-wide sphere of noise expanding into the Milky Way. To them, we would be unmistakable. A world alive not only with biology, but with technology. A world that has crossed what many theorists call the Great Filter, the hurdle between life that evolves and life that invents. But invention alone is not survival. Civilizations might rise and fall like stars, burning brightly, then fading into silence. This brings us back to the Fermi paradox. If the universe is vast and old, filled with billions of stars older than the sun, then why do we not see them? Why is the sky not teeming with signals, artifacts, or visitors? One possibility is sobering. Perhaps most civilizations do not last long enough to make themselves known. Perhaps they perish by their own hand war, ecological collapse, technological hubris. If that is true, then what we do in the coming centuries is not merely about progress, it is about survival. This is where the cosmic mirror turns back on us. If alien civilizations are watching, they may not be wondering whether we can build faster rockets or stronger machines. They may be wondering whether we can build stronger bonds of trust, deeper wells of compassion, and wider circles of cooperation. For it is not technology alone that secures the future of a civilization. It is wisdom. We sometimes forget this because we live in an age intoxicated by invention. Every year, our devices grow smaller, faster, more powerful. We speak casually of artificial intelligence, of genetic engineering, of colonizing other worlds. But pause for a moment and ask, do our ethical frameworks evolve as quickly as our tools? Does our sense of responsibility keep pace with our sense of ambition? If not, then all our progress is a race car without brakes dazzling in speed, but perilous in direction. History offers warnings. The discovery of fire gave us warmth, light, and cooked food, but also the ability to burn villages. The mastery of metallurgy gave us plows, wheels, and architecture, but also swords and cannons. The unlocking of the atom gave us clean energy with the power to light cities and bombs, with the power to erase them. In every case, technology is a double-edged sword, and whether it heals or harms depends not on the invention itself, but on the hand that wields it. Now imagine those alien eyes again. Perhaps they see us not as hopeless, but as standing on the threshold of maturity. They might see us as a test case, a question the universe has asked 1,000 times before. Can intelligence survive its own adolescence? Can curiosity evolve into wisdom before power destroys its creator? And here is the beautiful twist. Whether aliens are watching or not, the answer to that question lies entirely in our hands. The cosmos is not our judge, but it is our stage. The stars will not scold us for failing, but they will record our failure in silence, in the absence of our light among their constellations. And if we succeed, they will witness something rare and precious, a species that shows cooperation over conflict, knowledge over ignorance, and wonder over fear. We often think of alien civilizations in terms of discovery, as if the revelation of their existence would be the greatest gift. But perhaps the greater gift is the thought experiment itself. To imagine that we are being watched is to imagine ourselves accountable, not just to each other, but to the universe. Accountability is a strange word when applied to the stars, but in it lies a profound truth, that the measure of humanity is not only what we achieve, but what we choose to value. Think about what it means to be visible in the universe. For most of Earth's history, we were invisible, a quiet world, wrapped in forests and oceans, sending nothing but the faint chemical whispers of life into the void. No signals, no lights, no evidence of thought. If alien civilizations had instruments scanning the skies a million years ago, Earth would have looked unremarkable, just another blue-green orb orbiting a yellow star. Beautiful, yes. Alive, certainly, but not extraordinary. Then, in the blink of a geological eye, everything changed. A species appeared that not only adapted to its environment, but reshaped it. We learned to harness fire, to build tools, to speak in symbols, to pass down memory across generations. Our brains grew curious, restless, ambitious. Soon, the night sky was no longer a mystery to be feared, but a puzzle to be solved. We carved constellations, told stories of gods and heroes, and measured the motions of stars. Without realizing it, we were already rehearsing for the role of cosmic participants. Fast forward a few thousand years, and that rehearsal gave way to performance. The first radio broadcast in the early 20th century was not just a local event, it was our debut on the universal stage. With it, we lit a beacon announcing that Earth was no longer just alive, but awake. And in the century since, that beacon has grown brighter. Every transmission, from the crackle of Morse code to the digital chatter of satellites, has joined the expanding sphere of human noise, racing outward at the speed of light. Somewhere, perhaps, those signals have brushed against the receiver of an alien civilization, however faint, however distorted. And if they've heard us, then in their archives, our story has already begun. But what kind of story are we telling? Imagine their first impressions. The laughter of a comedy broadcast, the soaring arias of opera, the triumph of sports victories, the somber news of war, the eerie silence of disaster. They would hear a species that is not one thing, but many things at once. Violent, yet compassionate, destructive, yet creative, fearful, yet daring. They would hear, in short, a civilization in flux. And here's the irony. In worrying about whether aliens are watching us, we reveal something deeply human. For the act of imagining their gaze forces us to hold up a mirror. It makes us ask questions we often avoid. Who are we really? What values define us? What future are we choosing? Whether or not aliens exist, these are questions worth asking. Because the most profound observers of humanity will always be humanity itself. Let's take a moment to ground this reflection in science. The search for extraterrestrial intelligence, SETI, has been listening for decades, pointing vast radio telescopes at the sky, sifting through cosmic noise for any pattern that might reveal intelligence. So far, silence. Or perhaps a silence that masks signals too faint, too fleeting, or too strange for us to recognize. Some suggest that the universe is teeming with life, but that technological civilizations flare briefly and fade before their signals can cross the gulfs between stars. Others suggest that civilizations exist, but they choose not to reveal themselves, a kind of galactic non-interference policy, waiting until we prove ourselves ready. And still others argue that we may truly be alone, at least in this corner of the galaxy, a possibility that is at once terrifying and humbling. But silence is not the same as absence. The night sky is not empty. It is brimming with suns and planets, each one a stage for possibilities. Astronomers have already cataloged thousands of exoplanets, many in the habitable zones of their stars. Statistically, it would be astonishing if none of them hosted life. And if life arises easily, then intelligence too may not be rare. which means that somewhere, perhaps, civilizations have risen and fallen countless times, like waves against a cosmic shore. The question is not whether they exist, but whether we will endure long enough to join them. And here's the crux of the matter. Survival is not just about avoiding destruction. It is about becoming worthy of continuation. A species that survives is one that learns to balance curiosity with caution, ambition with humility, power with restraint. When we ask whether aliens are watching us, what we're really asking is, can we demonstrate that we belong in the gallery of civilizations, that we are not just another fleeting experiment in intelligence doomed to collapse under the weight of our own contradictions? Now, think again of the space race. In the 1,960 seconds, humanity hurled itself beyond Earth's atmosphere, not only out of curiosity, but out of rivalry. The Cold War made the stars a battlefield of prestige. And yet, from that competition came a perspective that transcended competition. When astronauts turned their cameras back toward Earth, what they captured was not a nation, not a border, but a fragile marble floating in darkness. The Earthrise photo became an icon not of American victory, but of human unity. Aliens, had they been watching, would have seen in that moment a flicker of maturity, a recognition that in the vastness of space, we are not Russians or Americans, rich or poor, believers or skeptics. We are Earthlings. And so the question lingers, will we continue to define ourselves by what separates us or by what unites us? From a cosmic vantage point, the answer determines whether we are a civilization in its infancy, stumbling toward wisdom, or a civilization rehearsing for extinction. From the perspective of the cosmos, our entire history is a blink. Dinosaurs ruled Earth for more than 160 million years. By contrast, Homo sapiens have existed for perhaps 300,000. Our industrial age, the era in which we first became visible to the stars, is scarcely 200 years old. In cosmic terms, we are not just young, we are newborns. And yet, in this brief infancy, we have learned to split atoms, sequence genomes, and send probes beyond the solar system. In sheer acceleration, our story is without precedent. But acceleration alone does not guarantee survival. If anything, it magnifies the risks. A match can warm your hands or burn your house down. The faster we run, the less time we have to notice whether we are sprinting toward a horizon or a cliff. An alien civilization watching from afar might not be impressed by our rockets or our skyscrapers. They might be asking a more fundamental question. Can this species, so young and so powerful, learn to wield its gifts responsibly before it consumes itself? History once again offers both hope and warning. Great civilizations have risen before us. Egypt, Greece, Rome, the empires of the Americas, the dynasties of China, each left behind monuments, achievements, and wisdom, and each eventually declined. Sometimes they fell to conquest, sometimes to disease, sometimes to the slow erosion of complacency. To us, their ruins are reminders of impermanence. To an alien observer, they might be data points in a broader equation. Intelligence does not guarantee permanence. Progress does not guarantee survival. And yet, humanity is not merely a continuation of those civilizations. We are something unprecedented, the first global civilization. For the first time, the fate of one group is inseparable from the fate of all. A nuclear exchange in one region could alter the climate of the entire planet. A virus emerging in one city can, within weeks, reach every corner of the globe. Our technology has bound us together, whether we admit it or not. In this sense, alien civilizations watching us might see a critical threshold being crossed. The moment when survival depends on cooperation at a planetary scale. This is what makes our time so consequential. Imagine a cosmic archive, a ledger of civilizations that have risen and fallen across the galaxy. Some entries may be short, species that burned out quickly, undone by their own violence. Others may span eons, species that mastered the balance of power and wisdom, learning to live not just on one world, but on many. In that ledger, humanity is a new entry, its story unfinished, its fate uncertain. What will be written beside our name? That is the question not just for scientists or philosophers, but for every person alive today. The paradox is that we already have the knowledge to avoid disaster. We know what unchecked carbon emissions will do to our climate. We know the risks of nuclear weapons, the dangers of pandemics, the fragility of ecosystems. Knowledge is not what we lack. What we lack is the collective will to act on that knowledge. It is as though we have seen the storm clouds gathering, but cannot agree to seek shelter together. From space, this must look absurd. A species smart enough to see its own peril, yet too divided to save itself. But perhaps this is also our hope, that in recognizing the absurdity, we may yet find clarity. That in imagining alien civilizations watching us, we might behave as if someone were holding us accountable. Not because we fear their judgment, but because we fear our own legacy. After all, the most enduring observers of our actions will not be aliens. They will be our descendants. When they look back on this era, what story will they tell? That we were reckless custodians of a fragile planet? Or that we rose to the occasion and became something greater than ourselves? The universe offers perspective on this. Stars are born, live, and die in cycles of billions of years. Galaxies collide, merge, and reshape themselves. Black holes consume suns, while new stars ignite in clouds of gas and dust. Against that backdrop, our struggles may seem trivial, and yet there is nothing trivial about them, for within this tiny window of cosmic time, consciousness has emerged. A universe without witnesses is just matter in motion. But a universe with witnesses becomes something more, a story. And right now, humanity is writing a chapter in that story, a chapter that may determine whether consciousness continues in this corner of the galaxy or flickers out like so many sparks before it. So when we ask whether aliens are watching us, we are really asking whether we are ready to watch ourselves, to see ourselves not as fragments, but as a whole. To recognize that from the distance of 100 light years, there are no Americans or Chinese, no rich or poor, no believers or skeptics. There is only Earth. Only one fragile blue sphere glowing softly against the dark. When we peer outward into the galaxy, we are not just seeking company, we are measuring ourselves against possibility. Every exoplanet discovered, every signal analyzed, every silence endured is a reminder that the cosmos is both generous and demanding. Generous because it has given us the stage, the tools, the awareness to ask these questions. Demanding because it forces us to confront the consequences of our own choices in the face of eternity. Consider for a moment what we now know. The Kepler Space Telescope, in its years of quiet watching, revealed thousands of planets orbiting distant stars. Many are Earth-sized, many lie within the so-called habitable zone where liquid water could exist. Statistically, the Milky Way may contain tens of billions of such worlds. The odds suggest that life could be common, perhaps even abundant. But if life is abundant, why does intelligence seem so rare? Why do we not hear the chatter of civilizations echoing across the stars? Some scientists propose that civilizations are self-limiting. They reach a point, perhaps, just where we stand now, when their technology outpaces their wisdom. Some collapse inward, consuming their planet's resources before learning to live sustainably. Others tear themselves apart in conflict, wielding weapons whose power exceeds their restraint. Still others may simply lose the will to look outward, content to burn brightly for a time before fading into silence. If this pattern is common, then perhaps the universe is filled with tombs of civilizations, their ruins orbiting quiet suns, their stories erased by time. That thought should not depress us, it should motivate us, because it suggests that what we choose in this century may place us in one of two categories: another forgotten attempt, or one of the rare few who endure. Imagine alien archivists cataloging civilizations across the eons. Perhaps most entries are marked with a short line: they did not last. But a precious few are marked with a different note: they transcended. If aliens are watching us now, they may be watching to see whether we can write ourselves into that second category. And here is the irony. Survival is not simply about rockets and colonization. It is not about escaping Earth before it burns. It is about learning how not to burn it in the first place. Space exploration is noble, but it cannot serve as an escape hatch for irresponsibility. A civilization that cannot care for its home world is unlikely to thrive among the stars. To leave Earth not as refugees of our own mistakes, but as ambassadors of our wisdom, that is the true measure of readiness. But readiness is not just a planetary concern, it is also personal. Each of us, in our choices, becomes part of the signal we send to the future. When you treat another person with dignity, when you choose compassion over cruelty, when you elevate knowledge over ignorance, you are strengthening the fabric of civilization. The opposite choices unravel it. Alien civilizations, should they exist, may never see the details of our daily lives, but our descendants will. And it is their judgment, more than any alien gaze, that should humble us. Still, let's indulge the possibility that aliens are watching. What would they see in our era? They would see a species unlocking the secrets of physics, probing the nature of black holes, bending space-time with mathematics alone. They would see us mapping the genome, learning to edit the code of life, wielding powers once reserved for myth. They would see us building machines that think, networks that connect billions of minds, telescopes that look back to the dawn of time. They would see us balanced on the razor's edge between brilliance and catastrophe. And perhaps, in our struggle, they would see themselves for what civilization could endure without once standing at such a threshold. History reminds us that thresholds are dangerous, but also transformative. The invention of writing allowed us to pass knowledge across centuries. The invention of science allowed us to replace superstition with discovery. The invention of democracy allowed us to test whether power could be shared rather than hoarded. Each was a risk, each carried failure within it, and yet each lifted us closer to maturity. Our current threshold is no different. The risks are enormous, but so too are the possibilities. And here lies a cosmic irony. In asking whether aliens are watching us, we may have already given them their answer. For what defines intelligence is not simply the ability to survive, but the ability to reflect, to ask not just, how do we live, but how should we live? The very fact that we ask this question, that we worry about what others might think, that we imagine ourselves through their eyes, this is the spark of wisdom. It is the seed of responsibility. So perhaps the real challenge is not to prove ourselves to aliens, but to prove ourselves to the idea of aliens to behave as though we are always being watched, even if the watchers are only future generations, even if the only witnesses are ourselves, because in truth, we are being watched. By history, by the cosmos, by the mirror of our own conscience. If alien civilizations are watching us, then perhaps they understand something we struggle to grasp, that the universe does not hand out second chances. Stars are born, they burn, they die. Planets form, oceans rise and fall. Species emerge and vanish. The cosmos is both cradle and grave, and it rarely waits for stragglers. If life hesitates, if intelligence squanders its moment, the universe simply moves on. That, in a way, is our greatest challenge. We are used to thinking that tomorrow will always be available, that progress, however delayed, will eventually arrive. But the window for a civilization may be narrower than we imagine. A few hundred years of reckless choices, and ecosystems unravel. A few moments of geopolitical folly, and nuclear fire erases centuries of culture. A few decades of indifference, and the climate itself tips into chaos. To us, these are politics, economics, and daily news. To the cosmos, they are tests. Tests of whether we are ready to join the chorus of civilizations, or whether we will fade before our voices reach the stars. It is here that perspective matters most. For when we look up at the night sky, we are not just gazing at points of light. We are gazing at time itself. The Andromeda galaxy we see is 2.5 million years in the past. The starlight of Sirius began its journey 8 years ago, long before many of us were born. Even the light of our own sun is delayed, reaching Earth only after 8 minutes. In looking outward, we are always looking backward. Perhaps somewhere out there, another species is looking backward at us, not seeing who we are today, but who we were when their telescopes caught the first flicker of our transmissions. To them, we may already be history. To ourselves, we are still deciding that history's outcome. The paradox deepens. We are at once both the most significant and the most insignificant beings in the universe. Insignificant, because our planet is but a speck orbiting one star among hundreds of billions in one galaxy among trillions. Significant, because within that speck, matter has awakened. Hydrogen and carbon, born in ancient stars, have assembled into eyes that can read starlight, hands that can shape worlds, and minds that can ask, are we alone? It is a question as old as philosophy and as modern as radio telescopes. Ancient civilizations looked to the skies and saw gods, myths, omens. We look and see possibilities, exoplanets, biosignatures, megastructures. But at its core, the question has always been less about them and more about us. To ask if we are alone is to ask, what does it mean to be human in a universe that may be teeming with life or may be utterly silent? And silence, too, teaches us. For silence is never empty. It is an invitation. Perhaps the universe is waiting to see what we will do with it. Perhaps the great experiment is not whether life exists elsewhere, but whether life here will realize its potential before it is too late. This brings us back to our own history, the space race. At the height of the Cold War, when two superpowers stood on the brink of annihilation, we did something astonishing. We looked up. We raced not just to dominate, but to explore. And in that race, something unexpected happened. For when astronauts gazed back at Earth, they did not see borders or enemies. They saw a fragile oasis in a vast void. The famous blue marble photograph did not belong to America or Russia. It belonged to humanity. It whispered a truth we had always known, but rarely acknowledged. That we are one species sharing one home, riding together on a tiny rock around an ordinary star. That image, had aliens been watching, would have told them more than any broadcast of speeches or wars. It would have told them that we are capable of perspective, that we are capable of seeing ourselves not just as tribes, but as a planet. That perhaps is the first sign of maturity in any civilization. The next step is harder. It is not enough to glimpse unity in a photograph or to feel awe in a moment of discovery. The real challenge is to live that unity, to build societies and systems that reflect it, to make decisions not just for today, but for centuries hence. If aliens are watching us, they are not grading us on our rockets or our mathematics. They are watching to see if we can master the art of coexistence with each other, with our planet, with the future itself. And if no aliens are watching, then the responsibility is greater still, because it means that consciousness, as far as we know, exists only here. The universe may be vast, but the voice of awareness may be singular. That makes our story not just important, but precious. It means the cosmos has, through chance and physics, entrusted to us the rarest of all gifts, the ability to know itself. To squander that gift would be not just a failure of humanity, but a tragedy of the universe. When we think of alien civilizations, we often imagine them as reflections of ourselves, explorers, conquerors, philosophers, or scientists. But in truth, they may be something altogether different. A civilization millions of years older than ours would not merely be advanced in technology. It would be advanced in perspective. Imagine what 1,000,000 years of history would teach us if we survived long enough to live it. We would no longer measure progress in centuries or even millennia, but in epochs. Wars that seem monumental in the moment would dissolve into footnotes. Boundaries would shift, dissolve, and reappear until maps became little more than artifacts of impermanence. The only constant would be survival, not of nations, not of ideologies, but of the species itself. If aliens are watching us, then perhaps they see our quarrels for what they are: noise in the larger signal, turbulence in the larger flight. They may not care whether this nation or that nation triumphs. They may not care who draws the borders, who waves the flags, or who builds the tallest buildings. What they may care about, if they care at all, is whether intelligence can survive its own contradictions, whether consciousness can persist long enough to matter. And this is where the true paradox lies. We think of alien civilizations as mysteries hidden in the stars, but the greater mystery may be humanity itself. Why, with so much knowledge, do we so often fail to act wisely? Why, with so much potential, do we risk so much for so little? Why, with the entire universe before us, do we still stumble over the most basic lesson of all, that we are in this together? The answer may be humbling. We are, in cosmic terms, children. We have learned to walk, to build, to speak, but we are still learning to live wisely. And like children, we test boundaries, we make mistakes, we learn through trial and error. But the difference is this: children have parents to guide them. We do not. We are the only known intelligence in this part of the galaxy, and there is no elder species to steady our hand or correct our course. If aliens are out there, they have not intervened. Perhaps they never will. The test, then, is ours alone. This realization should not terrify us. It should empower us. For it means that every choice we make carries weight. Every generation leaves a mark. Every step forward or backward echoes across time. The great silence of the universe is not an emptiness to despair over it, is an invitation to fill it with meaning. And meaning, unlike technology, cannot be invented by machines or discovered in equations. Meaning is forged in the choices of conscious beings. It is in the way we treat one another, the way we steward our planet, the way we carry our knowledge forward. An alien civilization, should they ever study us, would not define us by the height of our skyscrapers or the power of our weapons. They would define us by the legacy we chose to leave. This is why the space race was never just about reaching the moon. It was about reaching beyond ourselves. Yes, it was fueled by rivalry, but what it revealed was unity. For when Neil Armstrong set foot on lunar soil, he did not plant the flag of conquest, he carried the aspirations of all humanity. The words spoken in that moment were not a giant leap for America, but a giant leap for mankind. That phrasing was no accident. It was a recognition that space exploration belongs not to one nation, but to the species as a whole. Aliens, had they been watching, would have seen something remarkable. They would have seen a species capable of lifting its gaze above the horizon of conflict, if only for a moment, to glimpse the stars together. They would have seen, in the faint footprints across lunar dust, the first tentative steps of a species that might one day walk among the galaxies. But the moon landing was not the end of a story. It was the beginning of a question: what next? Will we remain tethered to Earth, fighting over scraps of land and resources? Or will we extend our reach not as conquerors, but as caretakers of knowledge, explorers of possibility? Will the next century be remembered as the age we consumed ourselves, or the age we reached for the stars? The answer will not be written by a single government or a single generation. It will be written by us all, in our classrooms, in our policies, in our compassion, in our science, in our willingness to see ourselves as part of something greater than tribe, greater than nation, greater even than Earth. Because here is the truth. Whether or not alien civilizations are watching us, the cosmos is every photon we release, every choice we make, every future we forge radiates outward, a signal in the great darkness. The question is not whether the universe is watching, but what story we choose to send. So let us imagine, one last time, that alien civilizations are watching us. Perhaps they tune into the radio chatter of Earth, listening not just for the content of our words, but for the harmony or dissonance of our collective song. They might ask, will this young species endure? Will it rise above its divisions? Or will it vanish, leaving behind only a faint echo in the static of space? The truth is, we do not know. But what we do know is this: the answer lies not in the stars, but in ourselves. Whether or not others are out there, we are here. Whether or not anyone is watching, history is. Whether or not we are joined by neighbors in the galaxy, we are already joined by one another on this fragile, improbable planet. The space race of the 20th century proved that we could touch the stars. The challenge of the 21st is to prove that we deserve to. Rockets and probes may carry us outward, but only wisdom will carry us forward. If we cannot learn to see ourselves as one species, bound by one destiny, then no amount of technology will save us. But if we can look upon ourselves with the same wonder with which we look upon the stars, then there is no limit to what we might become. Perhaps one day, long after we are gone, the signals of Earth will still be traveling outward, carrying our story across the galaxy. And perhaps an alien civilization, older and wiser, will catch those signals and listen. They will hear our laughter, our music, our struggles, our triumphs. And if we succeed, they will hear more than just noise. They will hear a story of a species that began divided, fearful, fragile, but that chose to rise, chose to unite, chose to endure. That is the legacy worth leaving. That is the story worth telling. That is the signal worth sending. For in the end, the greatest revelation is not whether alien civilizations are watching us. The greatest revelation is that we are capable of watching ourselves and of changing what we see. The stars do not care whether we succeed or fail. The universe will not mourn if we vanish. But if we endure, if we rise, if we carry consciousness forward into the deep night, then we become the cosmos made aware of itself. And that, in the vast silence of space, may be the most beautiful story ever told.